Hello and welcome to this week's Old School Q&A. I'm joined on the couch by, from right to left, we have Mod G, Mod Ash. On my right, we have Mod Rock.
Hello.
And Mod Bruno.
Hello. We forgot to say hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I am, of course, Mod Gambit, and I'm hosting this week for the first time. Please be gentle in the chat.
Smiley faces.
And on the chat, we have, of course, Mod Rye. So any questions you guys have, send them his way, and we'll try and get some of those included. So first off, just a quick reminder that Premier Club is still active. If you're looking for details about that, exclamation mark membership in the chat will bring that up. It's our currently best value membership package that we offer. So take a look. We also have exclamation mark vinyl for the vinyls, which are now on the merch store. You'll see the classic soundtrack and the orchestral collection are available now. And I think next week we'll have them in local stores rather than just on the merch store. So have a look at those as well. In the same news post, you'll find information on the Deadman permadeath beta, which is going out tomorrow in the update. That'll be a chance for you guys to play around with the changes that we've made and have a look at the arenas.
Should we tell them some more about that while we're on
Yes,
this
absolutely.
So one of the requests we had a lot for the Deadman finale was to bring 256 players rather than 128 into the 1v1 section, because, hey, I guess people like 1v1 and why not? So we've had a go at doing it. The thing is, with the best will in the world, we can't test that kind of thing internally very effectively. We multi-logged a lot of accounts and had a go, but so we think it's functioning, but we'd like your help. So tomorrow afternoon, I think we're looking at 3 o'clock UTC?
Yes, that's correct.
Cool. We're going to open up one of the tournament worlds, the ones which don't save your profile, and you guys can hop on that, first come, first served. And while we're not running it as a competition, it's a test. We're not. They joke about people going into this industry to play games all day, but sometimes testing is not about the gameplay. What we need is a lot of your bodies in the Deadman world, so that we can see how the code handles 256 of you. What happens if it tries to move all those people to the arenas? Are we going to hit the infinite loop detector because it's got too much code to run and make it crash? I think not, but I'd like to find out before the finale, you know. So even if you don't get to really play Deadman, you really will be helping us quite a lot if you come along and play and be there. And hopefully we'll get the last 256 through the 1v1 stages, and you can have a look at Mod West's rather nice graphics. Normally we just do a kind of repaint for the different finales, because we don't need to spend a lot of graphics time remapping the whole thing. For this one, since we needed 128 separate arenas for the first round of it, Mod West has done a pretty elaborate job, and it looks to me like he's taken some ideas from what he did for PvP All-Stars to make a rather more epic finale arena than we've had before. He's also changed the design a bit. Previously we had the finale would take place in a walled arena with fairly high walls. He's got a new design now that will hopefully give rather better views. I look forward to seeing what you think of it. And like I say, it's not like playing Deadman. You'll be doing it to test the thing, to check the functionality of the specific code that's changed. We're not trying to test every other thing that's involved in Deadman, like the XP tracking, the behaviour of you log out and in again. It's a no-save world, one of the tournament worlds. So every time you log out and in, you'll get reset completely. And we don't expect to allow login throughout most of the beta, because that's not the thing we're focusing on this one. Anyway, that's enough on that topic. I'm happy to move on in the chat, if you will.
Great, thanks a lot, Ash. Again, exclamation mark vinyl will bring up the post with all the details if you want to get involved with that. So next we have something that Mod G has been working on. What have you got for us?
So I have a Soulful Lizard to show you guys. I've been working on this guy for a week. I've been here a week, and this is how far I've got.
It's really sweet.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's looking good.
Everybody keeps saying cute, and I'm like, no, it's not cute. This is going to kill you. No, it's probably not going to kill you.
Well, at least you'd be dying something cute.
The chat's just going cute now.
I mean, that from what we've seen, it's like the fact that you've only been here a very short while and you're coming out, or you've already got your first NPC, it's animating and stuff like that. That's a lot of progression in a short time.
Thanks. Thank you. I was really excited with this actually because sort of on my first day, Ghost said, right, you're going to make a Soulful Lizard. Our idea is for it to be like a salamander, but you can kind of do whatever you want. And I took a lot of inspiration from like geckos, you know, like leopard tail geckos, and sort of something a bit more like thick and like sulphurous and a bit chunky.
Well, we've certainly come a long way in the graphics budget from the sulphur clouds of the sulphur mine. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
Those are vampires. They're not recoloured. Those are just vampires. When you kill one of the vampires, it turns into a cloud of dust and goes away to rejuvenate. I didn't even repaint it. That's what you've got in the sulphur mine. The colour was already perfect for what worked there.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Well, yeah, we with Ghost and Alfie having so much to do for the actual terrain, we had to kind of make do with what we'd got. This is definitely coming a very long way further on than that.
Cool. So safe to say this is one of the first things you've been working on since joining us?
Well, yeah, the first thing.
The first thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
I joined last Monday and just...
how have you found it so far?
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, the optimization process is pretty crazy with the new tools to learn, but I'm really enjoying it, yeah.
New tools?
Well...
These tools have been around for 15 years.
Yeah, I've got some ancient technology to translate.
And powered by floppy disks and gerbils.
Back in the day, the spam on the stream would be dev tools, because so often we were limited by what we could do in 2013 by the lack of dev tools. Having got the 2007 tools recreated for us, we've now got the problem that they are 2007 tools, and that's what they were like. Sorry.
Dev tools.
There it is.
Yes, I think I taught them the phrase useless rock in about the same way.
Yes, 2016. Oh, how time flies.
Right, so Mod Rock. The other highlight of the update, besides the permadeath beta, would you like to tell us?
Yeah, so a project that myself and Mod Lenny have been working on for what seems like an eternity. And coming to you guys tomorrow is the long-awaited collection log. What this will do is, as you go through, you kill bosses and such, essentially it'll track what you get as drops. There are a few small caveats with it, which we have explained before, but I'll happily explain again. Anything that is tradable, even if you own it, even if you're an Iron Man, it will not be displayed in the system. The reasons for that being that if we were to do that kind of thing, we would be extending the whole project by 6 months to a year in order to accommodate all of that kind of stuff. So unfortunately, Iron Man will have to get the items again if they want to complete the collection log. But again, that's only for the tradable versions. Also, you'll see there is all of the untradable items like mini games, pets. You can see on the screen now the metamorphic dust. If you've got them or if you've used them, so if you've got the transmogs and whatever, they will automatically be filled in because they cannot be traded with other players. So yeah, here you got the back to the bosses thing. Everything's on there. There's a few gems that I thought was maybe a little bit mean, but I put them in anyway. And also some things that I kind of like to highlight some of the content that is less used in the game. Gnome cooking is on there for one.
Oh dear God.
Trying to get the mint cake, the seed pod, the scarf and the glasses. The evil chicken outfit, which you acquire from sacrificing god eggs in the woodcutting guild, is there as well, which is a fun one. And then we've got things like Zars, because they've got a decent unique table, Revenants, general Slayer stuff, so things you get from superiors, like the dust and mist staffs, etc. There's probably about 1,100 items on this list.
Yeah, that would be rather a lot of things if Lenny were meant to be tracking all of the ones that Iron People already owned. I think well, I'm not sure what the server would do if he tried that much code on it at once.
Yeah, there was something else I wanted to say, but now I can't remember it. I'll probably remember it in 2 minutes.
Is it about the quantities of them? Because the picture
Yes.
so far didn't show.
Okay, so some items will have a quantity capped at 1, such as things like the Castle Wars armors, Void, and that's because generally you can sell those back for reduced costs and then buy the next one. Therefore, we capped it that way. Things like Trouble Brewing, you can buy as, like, it'll go up to 255 because you can't trade them back in, and 255 is the general limit. Anything that is considered stackable, like Vials of Blood, Scales, etc., goes up to 65,535. So there's definitely a lot to do in there.
Well, thank you very much, Modrock. Something that's just occurred to me, which I don't think we have discussed yet, is have we got any plans for rewards for players who manage to somehow complete the whole thing?
I will be very surprised if someone completes the whole thing because it contains every piece of Gilded and every piece of Third Age possible from Clue Scrolls.
If you do complete the whole thing, you win a warm, fuzzy feeling of satisfaction inside. Speak to the anger if you lose it.
All right, that answers that question then. Cool, so I'm going to move on to the questions that have been asked by the community. The first one is a bit of a touchy one, but I think it's something that did need addressing. It was the most upvoted one on the 07 Reddit. So Burntfish asks, can we address the recent polling issues? The poll until it barely fails spellbook drama is more apparent than ever. Because of that, it's now more apparent than ever that poll results should not be released until the poll is closed. So this is something I did want to talk about, just to sort of clear the air a bit. I think the first thing we need to say is our own sort of personal opinions and beliefs on how the game, quote unquote, should be or what we would like, does not impact sort of, the polls, essentially. We don't close them early or close them late to try and make a change happen. The repolling was never intended to make that happen.
It's not like we've got the secret shrunken icon Illuminati paying us extra if we keep them small, as some players may seem to think we have this special agenda on it. That said, the players who objected to the size change before because of the skill gap in PvP, their point was quite legitimate.
Yes, my understanding is the way we've left it at the minute, we're open to looking at workarounds for that as and when it's appropriate. Because obviously the way it went this time wasn't ideal, and
I'm comfortable with us committing to that one being on the next poll if you would like to. It's not a the thing we talked about where it resizes but not in PvP zones is something I'm very happy to work on sooner rather than later.
Yes, well, for me that seems like quite a reasonable fix, quote unquote fix for it.
It's a compromise. It does not deliver everything that some people would like, and we regret that, but it also hopefully preserves something that's very important to a lot of other people.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the second question, but hopefully that alleviates some concerns. So Settle Down Willis asks, could the fire of unseasonal warmth's effect, the one from making friends with my arm, be expanded to the ice path, requiring desert treasure to be completed, of course, to give us access to a new area to kill trolls?
It could, but I think that would also make it the best area. Because I had a look in there and it's really open, it's got quite a lot of trolls in there. Right now you go to Yatizo to do it.
I wouldn't mind if people who've done that quest with those requirements and then built this thing, which is quite high fire making, got themselves a new trolling area. I mean, unless you thought it was like far too good, I don't mind it being a new thing to do.
Yeah,
with those
I definitely don't
requirements
mind it. It's just up to the community. They do dislike buffs. So.
I think we'd have to look at it to see if it's multi or single, whether you can or cannot put cannons there, etc.
We could restrict it if necessary.
Well, quite. And I think if we were to put it to the players, we'd tell them exactly what we'd do with the area if we were to change it.
Cool. So sort of a maybe yes, see what the community think.
Yeah, I'm happy
Emenster
to.
says that it's a singles area and they ask the question.
Okay, there we go then. DS Abolish asks, they say, let's discuss the development of an old school exclusive continuation of the Ham storyline. It surprises me that there is no low or mid-level Ham Slayer Master, even though lore-wise having a Slayer Master to exterminate all the monsters is fitting with the faction. Or could one of the low-level Slayer Masters be a secret Ham member or sympathizer? I quite like this one, actually, especially from a sort of lore perspective. It's funny. What do we think?
Doesn't RuneScape have continuations for Zanek's storyline?
Well, they've got Land of the Goblins and Chosen Commander and some content beyond that. We could have Land of the Goblins. Because it was nearly complete in development in August 2007, which was our archive point, which means we've got the almost complete version of it. It's not completable at the moment. We, Mod Nexus had a look at playing through it in the repository and found that he got stuck on the bit with the Goblin Temple. You just couldn't complete the quest. It hadn't been written right yet. But we would be able to finish it off, integrate it into Old School, launch it. It's not been a very popular request, partly because it ends, I think, on a crashing cliffhanger where Zanik, sorry about the spoilers, but it's been around for quite a few years, Zanik climbs into a box and the lid shuts. Quest complete. Now, for those who don't like Zanik very much, maybe that's okay. But of all the things we could reinstall in Old School, that one was quite low down the list. Also available, by the way, Path of Gluffery, which would give you, I think, warped terror birds. And for some reason, when we say that, people stop caring. Anywho, we could also, like the players actually asked about, write something different. Heck, we could have Land of the Goblins and then write something different to Chosen Commander, where you get Zanik out of the box in a different way. Use lockpick on box, possibly. Or you open the box again and find that she's now been squashed flat. Or
Schrodinger's Zanik.
That's tempting. Maybe you get an option for whether she's alive or dead.
Ooh, ooh.
Then that's how you continue.
I've got to
that
ask.
storyline.
Could you say one if you'd like her alive or two if you'd like her dead? I'm curious.
Option to switch sides and join Ham.
Actually, that is a fair point. Though, if I know there's a lot of talk about between our lore parity with RuneScape, but that is genuinely a storyline that we could end at the quest that we have, and then obviously they've gone for the human side. For the monster side, and we go the humans against monsters side to build our story that way.
Interesting.
It's a little inconsistent with her personality as revealed in the quest so far, but maybe when she gets put in the box, her head could get squished or something, and she becomes a flat-headed goblin with some different ideas. This isn't entirely serious, but
Old school RuneScape content design live.
well, it's up there with the conversation about how the wilderness had a big bare space, so we put a big bear in the big spare space. I mean, we've never really contradicted RS3 in any significant details so far. Even where Ed worked on Taste of Freedom, it tells a different story to what you got in Legacy of Seergaze, but it's the same shape, the same kinds of characters doing similar things. You even get the flail thing. We were not trying to deviate too much at that point, because Legacy of Seergaze wasn't a bad quest. What I'd regret is that we wouldn't be able to do Chosen Commander, because that was my favourite quest of all time, and no, I didn't write it. It felt like I'd been playing quests for years and writing a few quests, and suddenly I saw Chosen Commander and felt now I'd seen what a quest could be.
Could we make a Chosen Commander, but from the Ham side? And Ham's Chosen Commander?
Remarkably tempting. I could see Big High War God thinking it a rather good idea to use these really, really aggressive humans instead of the creatures he's used to. Yeah. Anywho.
All right, yeah, I've seen some moving on in the chat, so I'm going to get to the next question. Boulder Falcon asks if there's any talk of a new agility course in Zaya, Mayaditch, or possibly Prif in the future. Any variety would be appreciated for the skill.
I think we've talked about all three at one point.
The Mire Ditch one's very appealing because that area has a lot of walking around on rooftops already and a great big long castle wall that could reasonably be it. And let's face it, there's a lot of dead content there.
Yeah, possibly a chance to include some agility-related rewards if we went to.
Are you sure this question didn't come from Mod Rye?
So I guess you're up for making a lot of graceful kit then.
I think with the agility, people there was talk about maybe doing something a bit different instead of having it like high. Maybe doing some kind of like underground or
Like the dog
like
shoe one.
sunken. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's cool.
shake it up.
Like you have to crawl through trenches and get under things because if you put your head up too high, then you get shot at or something.
I mean, basically, we do want to do something with agility. At the moment, you go from 60 to 90 essentially at Sears as long as you've done the diary, and just continue teleporting. So Relic barely gets used, and that the Wilderness only gets used for a couple of levels.
Yep.
If you decide to do it that way and don't want your marks of grace, so there's definitely room for us to add some variety in there.
Cool. So from Ralphicus, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, it's the best I
Yes,
can
you
do. Says, if you make a new Sea Slug quest, would it come with a new tier of Temple Knight armor, in brackets Acolyte? If yes, what stat niche could the armor fill, considering that Proselyte is ridiculously good when it comes to its prayer bonus? I think we sort of agreed before we probably wouldn't add an extra tier to the armor. But for me, the interesting half of this question is plans with the Sea Slug storyline.
People seem to want a lot of story this week.
Well, it's fun.
I'm not complaining.
It's fun to write. I think everyone except possibly Kieran likes writing quests, and he probably would if he wanted to.
Well, you just tell them there's a boss in it.
Well, it did cross. At one point, the idea for making friends with my arm is that I'd write the quest and he'd write the boss, and then he had a different project to work on, so I wrote the boss, and I didn't want a very hard one anyway, so so one of Kieran's specialties might have been a bit overkill. Anywho, we do like writing stories, and I also know what the Slug Menace developer had in mind for that storyline, because he told me before we fired him, so it's, we can go there. Possibly not with the gratuitous torture cutscenes that he worked on, because I didn't see it myself, but I understood from Paul Gower that he'd got a cutscene of somebody strapped to a board in the Temple Knight's dungeons with a burly Temple Knight just pounding away on them. And as the camera pans away, and the player's left to wonder whether they've actually been helping the good guys on this.
It's very dark.
Yeah, it was meant to be. And invitation to consider just what they're doing in the service of Saradomin, whether Saradomin would approve, and what it says about Saradomin if he did.
But RuneScape isn't that kind of fantasy game.
No. Well, we try to keep it that way, so it's not.
I think we're allowed dark content. We've got that torturing the gnome thing in Morning's End Part 1.
All you do is tickle its feet.
I think you even just threatened to.
Don't you? You threaten to feed it nails or something, don't you?
The developer wanted to write dialogue where you threatened to feed it nails in prune stew so that it would have diarrhea with nails in. I don't recall whether Modmark allowed him to put that in the game in the end. We certainly didn't have you do it. Well, now you know that.
I think I've heard that story about 8 times and it still makes me laugh and cry at the same time.
Oh, and they thought it was a bit dark when you had to kill the unicorn in Underground Pass.
Right. Material Gas asks, can the team add support for keeping a player's first 99 cape untrimmed? I understand there's no solution for players who have already trimmed their first 99 cape, but I would think that this would be a good change for players going forward and give new players and alts a way to celebrate their accomplishments.
I mean,
They already can. It's just more effort.
It can be done, right, is my understanding.
yeah, there is a really awkward way. Well, it's not really that awkward. It just requires you to have certain stats and know what you're doing. But I don't like the fact that we'd essentially be giving new people this way of showing something off, but then everyone else that happened to come before them that helped shape the game that they're now playing, etc., etc. Basically, it's just giving them a middle finger and going, we've got something that you don't. And It's like separating the community for no reason.
That's a lot of people who'd be excluded from it if we're excluding all current customers with 99s. That's a lot of people. I'd be sorry to exclude them from a feature that's meant to be about celebrating their 99s.
There's a lot of strong no's in the
Yeah.
chat.
I think there's a few on the couch as well.
I was thinking about the untrimmed capes, and I was thinking, what if all of the skill masters where you buy the capes from, if after you have your second, they then have the option to sell the untrimmed version in addition, so that you can have it.
That means everyone will be able to have every version of an untrimmed cape. Then therefore,
If
you're
they've
not-
earned the 99.
yeah, but therefore they're not showing off the fact that it was their first one that they managed to keep it, which I think is the whole main point of this.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Otherwise,
I mean-
we just give it a toggle for the trim like we did to the achievement one.
Yeah.
Right. Makes sense to me. Right. So we have an image for our next question asked by Spinewielder from the RS Wiki team. He says, seeing Mod Curse and Mod Rise passion for the dragon pickaxes. Oh, I'm sorry, I promised they wouldn't be mentioned.
I told you.
Why?
Seeing their passion for the pickaxe's old appearance has inspired me to make this picture. I think players would have preferred the Staff of Light's appearance before Evolution of Combat rather than post Evolution of Combat. So here are the designs before and after, along with the special attack anims.
Yeah, for what it's worth, the special attack anim, we didn't have any artists in the team back at that point, so we were really quite limited for what we could do.
But right, didn't we put stuff out on Twitter to help design this in the first place?
We did.
Was it? I can't remember who designed it, but I'm pretty sure we went to the.
The stuff itself was a tap thing from me.
Ah, okay.
I'm not sure.
I mean, I'm not adverse to it, but the problem is that when you get people that go, "Oh, I like the old design," and there's other people that go, "Oh, I like the new design," and then you can't please everyone unless you add in more ornament kits and switch between them.
Right. Well,
It's whether we'd want to do something like that or not.
possibly get a straw poll for this one. I'm seeing a lot of yeses and a lot of nos in chat. Maybe we should ask should the Staff of Light be changed to its old appearance?
Can we have a third option on that for don't mind? Because I'm seeing some of that in the chat as well, and I'd be interested to know how strong the views are.
It seems like some people are actually enjoying the fact of having an ornament kit on it as well. But is that another thing we'd like to? Trying to think where it ties into.
Would it be that the ornament kit is to make it look like the old version, or have the old as the default and then ornament kit for the quote-unquote
I would
new
keep
version?
the current version as it is, and the older version be the norm. The
Yeah,
ornament kit.
telling players whether you were in favour of it or not, your item has changed its
It's
appearance.
changed.
If you want it to go back again, play this content a lot.
Or buy
Right.
something or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Buy in-game, not buy from
Yeah.
Solomon store.
Okay, so while that poll is going, move on to the next question from Baker. If there was one feature you could implement from a different game into Old School, what would it be?
For me, I think it has to, I'm a big RPG, JRPG fan and ARPGs as well. For me, it'd have to be something like Diablo's rifting system.
Okay.
Diablo 3's rifting system, where it's like procedurally generated content. Almost like dungeoneering, but not quite dungeoneering. That would probably be the way I'd go.
Fair. Bruno, any thoughts?
We did do this before and it wasn't very popular, but I do like the way that in games like The Witcher you can have a new game plus, which is like you finish the game, so for example you get 99 everything, and then you can just decide to start again on the same character but have like the same stuff and all that. So maybe prestige system, although it is quite unpopular.
Prestiging a skill, but would you do it at 99 or 200 mil?
99.
Fair. G?
So not like a gameplay and mechanics feature so much, but just introduce more colours. Because when you're making stuff in the game has like a very limited range of colours to use, so just add more.
Fair.
I'd like a lobby. I know that's controversial because I've seen it come up on these streams before, but the reason I'd like it is that the user flow of getting people into the game and between worlds and able to communicate with each other is, not ideal. like really not ideal. We get requests for, making you do things before you can log into the game for security. Currently can't do that because by the time we can run any code on you at all, you're inside the game. I just feel we'd be able to implement a few things that people have asked for and smooth out a few things that people just got used to being bad, like browsing world lists while chatting to friends. I think we'd be able to improve a lot of things that people would appreciate, and we wouldn't have to use the lobby in ways that players would resent. We wouldn't, for example, need to, put fancy graphics in there that people don't need, bulking out your downloads. I think we could get something worth having in that regard if we could have a lobby. Of course, that's a rather large engine job.
Can RuneScape run logging scripts in there? So basically, when you get into the lobby, you're basically in like a stasis where we can run login scripts and stuff.
Truth be told, I don't know that much about RS3's lobby, but if I could have something that I've seen on other games and have it work the way I'd like it to, then I'd want one where we could, and one where we could, even if we couldn't edit their save game profile, I think we could get some useful functionality out of it.
So the people
Also,
saying...
Well, you do the message of the week screen at the moment. You're in the game while you're looking at that thing. I'm very surprised players haven't been more in favour of us taking it out so that they log in and they're in the game immediately rather than with their screen blanked out and hoping nobody comes to attack them. I think we did disable it in a few high-intensity situations, but showing you, the info it's got about your membership, your messages in your inbox, your bank pin status, and message of the week advertising our most recent update. Doing that in a lobby feels a lot more sensible to me than where it currently is, if we would do it at all.
Okay, sorry,
So
Brit.
the people spamming Battle Royale, we have a Battle Royale minigame, but just not a lot of people play it.
Yeah, and they know why.
Yeah.
We also have a list of things we'd like to improve about it. Of all the things we could undertake, we ended up deciding to spend the dev time on Bounty Hunter for 2018 rather than on, that one. But the list of ideas ain't going anywhere, so we can totally come back to it at a later month. And I'd be quite glad to, because there's a lot of work gone into that, as you know, and I'd be glad to rejuvenate it.
Okay, so the results of the straw poll are in. We asked, should the Staff of Light be changed to the pre-EOC version? 34% of you don't care, so that's about a third, and then 31% voted yes, but as an ornament kit, and then as a straight yes, we had 26% and only 9% saying no. So
That would go through easily on a poll.
Yeah.
it's a fairly
The
fairly
ornament kit would
well-received idea.
probably please the people that say yes as well. Because they'll get it, it just means that they have to get an item to use it.
Yeah, so
Given that whenever we change items, people tend to ask for a toggle to have it back again, the ornament kit approach does seem better.
cool. So maybe we'll make a note of that one and put it in a poll sometime. Right, so next question from Bleckod. Some odd names coming in today. But Bleckod says, so right now you guys try to release around 3 big updates every year. Updates that are usually new and exciting content. I've also noticed that every week we seem to be getting backlog creep, with the team saying add it to the backlog, only for the thing to never be heard of again. With that in mind, what would you think of skipping one big update one year and instead doing a huge backlog clear up? I'm sure that one big update would not even come close to clearing out the backlog, but a lot of minor tweaks and small fixes would come a long way in making Old School more fun.
It's true that they wouldn't clear out the backlog, and the thing about a backlog is that every idea, and we'll probably see some 100 ideas on a typical day just browsing social media. Every idea conceivably would go in that backlog, and not all are worth it.
Yes.
I mean, whatever idea you're thinking of that you know is worth it, it's definitely worth it to you, and it's probably quite a good one, because if you're watching this stream, you're probably quite an enthusiastic player and have some decent ideas. Whereas some of the other stuff that comes through, maybe not so much. So the aim is not to clear the backlog or deliver everything that players have ever wanted or ever thought of. especially when they don't agree with each other. We would like to be able to do more. One of the things we're doing is getting more staff in, and thus there'll be fewer problems where we have to say, well, no artists available. We got one. And we've got, hopefully, more devs, or at least one more in the not too distant future. We've been interviewing quite a lot. But, even cancelling one big update, which there's some side effects to that, by the way, which I'll come back to. It's not going to get you a huge amount. It would be a bit like the equivalent of having, another qual month. And, maybe you get another 30 things out of that, which tend to be rather small things. That's not necessarily as big a win as the player was hoping for when pitching this. Also, take, for example, the big launch we have in January. Now, there was a year where Old School had a big launch at the start of January, and due to the way scheduling worked out that year, RS3 didn't have something scheduled for the beginning of January. I think they did it maybe 5 weeks later. We know that for seasonal reasons, people tend to come in for Christmas, so player numbers go up. And in Old School, we observed that the player numbers kept going up between Christmas and the launch of our new update, because people had something to stick around for. RS3 at the same time, they'd got some great content coming, but it wasn't coming in early January. Their numbers peaked at Christmas and then started going back down again because there wasn't something to encourage people to stick around for. The difference that makes is considerable. Oh, different shot now, thank you. It is disproportionate to the amount of time spent on the content, just doing it at the right time and making it something that is appealing. I hate to say that we need to do things that sound exciting rather than just grinding through the backlog, because some of those mundane things are worth having. But the effect for us as a business is very, very strong compared to the amount of dev time spent on it. So those 3 points in the year, they're not just chosen because we thought 3 was a good number. 3 is a good number, especially with 70 before it. But it's really quite important at the moment. And I'm afraid we're not so easily going to be able to move away from caring about that stuff. But with more staff around, I do hope we'll be able to get through more of the backlog, especially all the interface work that our former colleagues, and me and Ed and Maz and West were working on for mobile. That's at least trickling to an end. There's a lot of fixes still to do for mobile, but that's been occupying a huge amount of time from the team for, over a year. With that freeing up, we've been able to get a bit more of gameplay stuff out of them again, which will hopefully be an improvement.
We've also, I've been saying on that, we've also got the, we do a qual month every February, and generally all of our stuff for qual month comes out of the backlog anyway.
Yep.
So we essentially do it alongside the 3 updates. I wouldn't necessarily be averse to doing another qual month later in the year. They're very popular.
I like qual months. And what I'd like when we split the team into 3, live operations, high value, and the projects one, what I'd have liked is that live ops could be effectively doing qual month all the time. In practice, we've been needed for other things, so that's not been possible. And in the absence of a group that focuses on PvP, we've been having to work on that sort of thing based on Aiza's recent blogs. But that's the goal, to be able to be delivering a trickle of these things all the time, rather than needing to clear the backlog in great big annual purges.
Right. While we're on the topic of updates, I've just been told that the Kebos release date has been changed. We're pushing it back to January 10th. Not the best news, sorry guys, but that's just sort of the case.
So
this time.
Sorry, Karen.
Sorry, I'm being told it's essentially because the nature of the project and the size of it. We want to make sure it's as good as it can be for you guys. You're gonna have to wait one more week, I'm afraid. But the flip side is that's an extra 7 days to get your Slayer up to 95. To put a positive spin on it, I guess.
I understand there's
Sorry
a
to wedge
team
that
of
in
fairly
there.
elite skillers who are away around the third for a tournament they're going to, so they might be happy about this one.
Yeah, as Gambit said, stuff like this happens when it's just a case of us wanting to make sure that we can put out the project that you guys want in the best possible manner. And if an extra week needs it, it needs it. It just means we can get what you guys are expecting.
It's this particular year, the way the national bank holidays fall around Christmas means that a lot of working days are taken out, and that means that trying to deliver this on what's effectively the second working day of the calendar year is riskier than the usual, where we've had like 3 days in the office beforehand, 2 days in the office beforehand. That's a chance to deal with last minute things. Also, over the winter holiday, which we have, it's a much higher than usual risk of staff illness, travel disruption, the kind of things that just take out a day of dev time or more without a lot of people around to pick up the slack. So trying to guarantee the third was always a little bit risky. I think the 10th is a lot more reliable.
Yeah, we can see people in the chat being quite very understanding. It very much is a case of we love the game as much as you do, and all we want to do is essentially provide you with the best thing that we can. And in this case, it just means we would like an extra week to do it, and that's what we're doing, so you guys are more happy.
There we go, lots of smiley faces in chat now. That's nice.
Also, Mod Kieran is dying, so if everyone could send him some love on Twitter, I think he'd appreciate it.
What's happened to him?
He's not very well.
Is he in today?
I think he's left.
Right.
Just before he infects everybody.
He's got man flu.
Right, so I'll continue on with the questions. We have a second question from DS Abolish, who asked the ham question. Maybe all the lore stuff is maybe sort of my bias as much as the players. But
Agenda.
but they ask, when are you going to add in more quests and more Majorat/Zaros lore? The Majorat are some of the most interesting characters in RuneScape, and Zaros is one of the most interesting gods. The quest line can go in a different direction for Old School. For example, Sliske could already be dead. He's a horrible character. Karshai could awaken before the ritual of rejuvenation, and there could be a third Majorat faction, the Desert Pantheon. Karshai, Jalan, I'm sure I'm not saying these right, and Temekel could all be part of this faction. Alternatively, there could be an Old School exclusive Majorat stationed on Zaya.
When it comes to quests and lore for Old School and RuneScape, personally, I'd rather go the way that where we make our own stories. Like we have Zaya, we're building our own quest system. We have ideas on what we want to do with it, and that's something that RuneScape hasn't got. Although we can do quests that they have done and those kind of storylines, a lot of people already know that because the lore exists coming from the other game. I think. Personally, I'd like to see us do more outside of what's already been done so that we can provide you guys with something different.
Do we feel the same, that we'd rather sort of pave our own way with the lore in Old School?
I'm just trying to remember what Mod West pitched as a sequel to Desert Treasure, because it certainly touched on some Desert Pantheon stuff and if it involves a sequel to Desert Treasure, I'd expect the Majorat to be involved.
So sort of a yes, I suppose, is the answer. Something we'll definitely consider. So SM Dragon asks, with the addition of Kebos Lowlands achievement diaries, is there anything that we can unlock prior to the release to help us? Sort of how can they get ready?
I don't think we're putting tracking in beforehand for any of the tasks. No. So
they've had a few questions lately about whether Slayer points used by the new Slayer master will be the same Slayer points they can already get, because if you've got lots of Slayer points, then you can skip lots of tasks and try to get to the one you want, which means saving up lots of Slayer points in preparation for an update. Now, I don't actually know the answer to that one. I've tended to suggest people try Mod Munro, who's doing a lot of the Slayer programming for the update. But maybe saving up a lot of Slayer points wouldn't be a bad thing. And hey, worst thing, if they turn out not to be useful, they're not going to do you any harm. And you'll have a better Slayer level.
You could also get the obvious things like all the Zaya favors. Obviously, that's going to be useful. Get some high stats for things like redwoods. They're probably going to be included. That sort of stuff.
Yeah, kind
I
of.
see a coal.
Kind of have a look through the dev blog that we released and have a look at what kind of content and levels and stuff that's getting pitched. And then stuff that's already on there, like looking at the factions and the favour system, etc. Will probably give you a good idea of stats and levels and stuff, and then we'll throw some things in that you don't know about.
Cool. So Cold Weather says, for the older devs, as the panel and the player base knows, the Zamorak God Wars dungeon is considerably harder than all of the others, while simultaneously having the worst rewards, at least on release. The question is, why was it released that way? Which is maybe a bit broad, but...
For what it's worth, the way Krill Tutsuloth does its enraged attack is not what the developer intended, and never has been. And I ran into this when we were bringing it into Old School, and I was going through his code and importing his graphics and his code and trying to tidy a few things up and fix the issues that we knew about from the previous launch. But while we were dealing with things like safe spots by making all the rooms rectangular rather than having things in the doorways like the original launch did, where people could always safe spot Bandos, I was trying to avoid changing any of the mechanics of the bosses from what people remembered from back in the day. Specialist God Wars was always pretty darn popular back in the day, so redesigning the bosses felt like no one was going to thank us for it. Anywho, what's going on with Krill is meant to be that he tries an attack, he detects that you're blocking it with prayer, and he counts up. And after a random number, between 7 and 12, I think it was meant to be, he does the enraged thing. So if you were fighting him solo, you'd remember after a certain number, better turn the prayer off and let him hit me properly, otherwise he'll do the enraged thing. That's what the developer was aiming for, as far as I can tell from the comments in the code. And you can't always tell, but there were comments on this occasion. What he actually wrote was that Krill counts up every server tick rather than every attack, and then tries to do the enraged attack, but won't succeed if the server tick at which he tries to do it doesn't match one of the ones where his attack speed allows him to hit you. So it's really unpredictable when his permitted attack rate will coincide with the random number that he's trying to get to, matching the counter that's been counting up in server ticks. And thus Krill is not like he was trying to be, but he has been like that since 2007, so I'd think jolly carefully before reprogramming him, even though it would be quite easy. Also, it's a multi-way area, so counting on the demon based on how many times you've blocked him isn't entirely appropriate anyway. Anywho, that's all I know about Krill. I think if we made that change, he would get easier. We can also stick more custom stuff on him if people have particular things in mind, which is more my preferred way of going about it.
I want to ask our resident PVM, do you even agree that Zami is the hardest? I've got a lot of people.
It's definitely not the hardest.
Yeah.
I'd say it's one of the easiest.
Right.
I also do think that, not that it's the hardest, but it is some of the worst loot. You get like, the good things you get from Zami is the the spear and the toxic staff. I think that's it.
I mean, the spears are like
Everything else.
14, and the top stuff, the dead's like 6 to 8.
Yeah, but if you compare it to Bandos, which
Yeah.
drops Tacit's chestplate, and then Saradomin, which drops ACB, Saragodsword, they're really like much more expensive.
Oh no, totally.
So the loot isn't great, which makes it not as good. But it's definitely not the hardest boss. You could easily stay there for like a full task of Zami, Greater Demons.
Okay, not that hard. You heard it from Mod Bruno. Cold weather needs to get good at God Wars Dungeon. So I'm going to ask this question despite Rock's protestations, just as a thank you to Mod Rye for managing the chat today. Carrie asks, is there a plan for the new Dragon Pickaxe ornament kit that Mod Curse showed on Twitter? The answer to this is sort of written for me, so I'll just get through it quickly. You can see it there. I think it looks gorgeous. I've always liked that model. So Raya said, we have some rough plans, but would welcome any suggestions for where you would like this to come from. Please send them to @JagXCurse. Mod Curse getting the Twitter plug this week.
Sell out.
I spoke about this with him earlier, and the reason for doing this is that some people prefer that model to what we've actually got in game. I turned around and said, I just prefer what's wrong with just the regular pick? Genuinely, I think the regular Dragon Pickaxe looks better than the pair of them.
Oh, fair.
Mod Alfie, I think it was, came up with an interesting design that was like a dragon's face as the end of the pickaxe, so that when you smash it into a rock, you've got some poor dragon's nose being just...
Right.
Yeah, we didn't do them. Yeah.
Moving on, Greggy asks, what are your thoughts about adding new spells to Old School, whether that be combat or utility based for the different spell books?
Like a sandstorm.
Like Sandstorm, perhaps?
If it fits. I mean, we added a whole Arceus spellbook. That's a lot of spells.
We did Surges with Dragon Slayer too.
Yeah, we've got Geomancy, that's new.
I think if the content warrants it and there's something that can come of it and the spells have a use, then there's no reason not to.
It's a fairly vague question without specifying what the spells would do.
It is.
Like, if we decided that clearly what the player meant was lots of combat spells on the Lunar spellbook for attacking people with, then that probably wouldn't be the way we'd go.
Sure.
Every spellbook we have has its kind of niche. I mean, the Arceus one could do with a little bit of love, don't get me wrong. The only thing that it's really used for is making barrows teleport tabs and resurrecting
That's useful.
ensouled heads. So if I know Mod West has had a design to do with updating the Arceus spellbook. I mean, I'd be happy to get some recommendations and stuff from players as to what we can add towards the Arceus spellbook to make it a little more useful.
Reasonable. I'm going to move on to some chat questions now. We're sort of getting towards the end of the stream, so I want to get these in. Skittles asks, can you make it so that you have the ability to upgrade all the furniture in the costume room, similarly to the pools, where you can go up to the next tier? So please make it so you don't have to remove the items and can be able to upgrade it with them inside.
Yeah, I can see why that's annoying.
No, that would be a nice thing to do. From what I know, I think even at the one before the top tier, you can only put in 3 or 4 outfits.
It's not great.
So it's not great, but at the same time, it's not a lot of items that you have to remove. But the upgrade system is much more suited for.
Yeah, the Devil made POH mostly didn't let you change a material to a completely different material by just bolting more stuff on, where you can upgrade things like in a workshop. It's like adding a vice to the table you already have, adding steel rims to the table you already have, rather than saying, well, this oak thing, if I put this plank on it, the whole thing's now made of mahogany. That said, while that was the pattern and has been fairly consistent throughout POH, we can just say, stuff it, players want this, and let them upgrade, because it really is quite frustrating if you've got going from the middle tier to the upper one.
And we wouldn't have, I don't think we'd have any issues to do with variables if we let them upgrade it, because none of them are really changing, like with the outfit variables that are used when you put items in.
The variables would be fine, and the upgrade system, since I had to do some stuff to it to allow the occult altar with its very, very weird upgrading behaviour. Since then, this will be fine.
Cool, so it sounds like we'd be up for that. I think the chat's fairly positive about it as well. So something to make
One
a
for the
note.
backlog.
One for the yeah, add to that backlog. Arm asks, has there been any explanation as to why certain creatures which are classified as demons, bloodvells and hellhounds, for example, why they're not susceptible to the special passives of Arclight/Darklight/Silverlight?
Are they considered demons?
I get how they think they would be, because they're sort of like demonic things, like from Zamorak, but they're not demons
Kind
in
of evil.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're like demons in the way of like greater demons, lesser demons. They don't even have demon in the name, so
Not pure enough demons to be
Yeah.
affected by the effects, I guess.
They are quite different in most aspects. I mean, people occasionally wonder why can't a hellhound be killed for a dog task or vice versa. It's like, well, I know it's got 4 legs and it's kind of canine, but it's quite different.
I wouldn't be too averse to that, to be honest, if lower level players want to go to a Hellhound per se. So they're 112 combat, something like that.
Well,
And there's safe spots everywhere.
If we wanted hellhounds to work as hellhounds and as demons and as dogs, we'd have to change the Slayer instructor to
I don't-
level 3, but we could do it.
I don't think demons are covered. I think it was just more a case for you the adding Demon Bane to them as such. But allowing Hellhounds to be killed for a dog's task, it's a hound.
I'm not sure who's being assigned dogs at that kind of level, but
It's- Yeah,
I
I
think
think
the Slayer Master's just being annoying.
Turiel does.
yeah, he does.
Oh,
I
him.
don't know how far it goes after that though.
Well, if they're using
Vanakkar,
him, there's
I
probably a
think.
reason.
It probably stops around there. Yeah, probably goes to the
I always used to go-
Makshgazna, whatever she's called.
Yeah,
Kind of fist.
I always used to just go to Ardy and range the ones through the fence.
Yeah, yeah, they're pretty annoying to kill. I think the best place is in the desert.
Yeah, so it's like I said, if you could go to
No one wants to go to the desert.
if you could go to Evil Steve and go kill the Hellhounds or whatever, then
Yeah.
I see that as an improvement, really.
So we have a question from Digi. Are you planning to do anything about the current death mechanics anytime soon? Don't know about soon.
We haven't put a date on it, but that blog what you guys wrote, I understand we'd likely have another draft of it before we try programming anything.
Yeah, I think there are definitely some things to be ironed out first, but it is on our minds and in the works potentially.
Oh, hello.
So
What was that?
That was just on our screen. It wasn't for
Oh,
their
right.
emails.
so don't expect it soon necessarily, but it is something on our minds. But it would definitely go through the feedback process sufficiently, so you were happy with it, we were happy with it before any changes were made.
Yeah, because there was a few things you guys weren't happy about in the last one.
So Palache2 asks, are there any changes we could make to improve the fishing trawler minigame? I think this has come up before. It relies on spam clicking and the XP earned is atrocious. I'm also going to throw in, I remember a question someone asked saying, can we improve the times that they go out as well? If you miss one, you're waiting 10 minutes.
That would be problematic because it's not instant, so each game world can only handle one at a
Right.
time.
If we would just make them shorter,
Also,
then that would increase the XP. It might not increase the items you get from it, but you'll get XP. It'll be a faster angler outfit.
That might be a decent solution then, actually.
it's also been suggested that we made the AFK timer a little bit harsh in there.
Yeah, I think at the moment, if you get a full bar after having done it, you can idle for 5 to 6 minutes. When you've got a 12-minute minigame, that's not helpful. Well, unless you're the person AFKing, of course. But, yeah.
I see somebody complaining it devalues their angler.
So the answer is sort of maybe yes. Decreasing the time might be
I think
appropriate way to fix it.
there are definitely things that we could approach the community with to make that piece of content more useful and enjoyable.
Matt had quite a few ideas about it back in the day. I forget what they were, but we've probably still got his blog available somewhere.
Right, I'm going to try and squeeze in one last question. I appreciate we're about to run over time.
Good one then.
So the last one from the chat. Oh, you want a good one? Oh, blimey. Okay, I quite like this one. So from Celsti, we have, why not give us a token upon getting a duplicate pet drop? This token would be untradeable, but could be spent at Probita, the pet insurance lady, which would either let you insure a pet to save 500k, or redeem it when you're getting a pet back, which normally costs 1 mil.
So instead of getting nothing, you get something worth 500k.
Or a mill.
So yeah, I mean, I think Aiza came to me with this one as well, like asking what I thought about it earlier in the week, because he saw the thing on Reddit as well. And the pet, I think a common misconception is that if you get the pet or get a roll on the pet, you lose out on something else. But that's not true. Everywhere I can think of, the pet is an additional roll.
Yep.
So not only are you getting the item, the reward, you're getting the pet as an extra. So technically you've lost nothing by getting it. And Probeta in itself is a cash sink, and intentionally so. I would hate to bring something in that then reduces such a thing. Sire is there. Okay, so
Yeah,
Sire is there.
Size the next yet to think of. Does Wintertod do it?
Well, the sire's got this
No,
weird
Wintertod's an extra.
thing with the unsired that behaviour that makes it a little bit odd. So I can see why that one ended up being different. It's like a very, very rare roll has happened, but you only know because we told you. And if we hadn't told you, you wouldn't necessarily feel that you deserved to be given 500k or a mil worth of value for it. And we could go in the other direction by just not telling you.
I think, in fact, players originally asked for the message to be put in, because I don't think it was included on release.
It wasn't.
You had funny feeling. No, it would be you have been followed, and it is called into your backpack. And then was it 2016? Maybe
I think so.
we added in the fact that you have a funny feeling you would have been followed.
I can see it is fun to know, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be worth that kind of value.
Also means we can track how many pet rolls you've had on the collection log.
Yeah, which
That
works,
is cool.
because today I got 2 Zuck pets, just to trying it out. So that's nice.
I'm aware that we're past 6, but I really would like to answer the Group Iron Man question, if that's all right.
Absolutely, it's a popular question.
So, what's the answer? Anyway, so as you'll be aware, the engine team's been working on the mobile thing for well over a year, and that's been their top priority. We've not been able to ask them to do a whole lot of other stuff on the side while that's been going on. That's sure, we've launched mobile. That doesn't mean it's finished. After all, if you consider all the things people write in saying that are wrong with it, or need changing about it, or need fixing about it, or aspect ratios on tablets aren't very good, so things overlap with other things. These are things that do need solving. So the engine team's still on that kind of stuff. I think somewhere in the list is Bluetooth keyboards, quite a popular one, that, because I hate typing on a mobile device. I imagine some of you do too. Means that the engine team is not free from mobile yet, which means that can they do everything they need for Group Iron Man, which is quite a big backporting project? Well, we can't realistically expect them to be doing that at the same time. So we'd like Group Iron Man because you'd like Group Iron Man, and from our point of view, it's kind of harmless. I don't see a downside to it existing. So sure, we'd like it, but we can't commit to a time for it because we can't even commit to when they'd be able to start the work, never mind when they'd be able to finish it. And I don't like giving a date if we can't be pretty confident in it. That's where you get Winter 2017 from, or indeed the 3rd of January. So, no, we don't have an announcement on that one, but we do know you want it, and we'd like to give it to you, because why wouldn't we?
The engine team are very aware that it is something we want and you guys want. And the good thing is that as and when it do get around to it, it also enables things like, I know a lot of the code that we use for the Group Iron Man would also be relevant in clan systems.
Yeah, I
as
don't
well.
quite know how some of that would work, but that seems to be their tech.
That's what we've been told.
I believe it. Hey, if that's what we're given and told to write Group Iron Man how to fit, then I'm jolly well going to do so.
That also allows us to redesign things like the Duo Slayer system that is pointless in our game right now.
And loses it on logout. If we get this thing that Rock's describing, then we'd be able to make them persist over logout, and then it'd be more worth putting features on. Because at the moment, if it became useful, then that logout thing would make it really annoying.
Yeah, they're definitely aware it's a high priority for us, but remember the engine team serve the business, not just our product. But they're definitely aware that it is something we want, and we do keep trying to prod them to see what we can get when we can get it.
yeah, certainly not that they hadn't heard that you wanted it. And especially when you've got a thing like, well, clans, which is where this is going, which ties into cross-platform chat stuff that are links into RS3. That's bigger than the usual engine stuff because it's got to happen to both products at the same time, coordinated. And they also have quite high priorities, which probably involves them getting a mobile version because their customers want one too. Some of them are the same people as you, maybe.
Okay.
I think you'd like to wrap up.
Yeah, I think that about covers it. There's the answer to the group Ironman question. That's where we're at with it at the moment. Take this moment to thank everyone for joining me on the couch this week, and thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.